After 17 long months, Canada's border is finally reopening to U.S. tourists, that is. As of midnight on August 9th, 2021, all U.S. citizens and permanent residents who are fully vaccinated will be able to travel to Canada for non-essential reasons, aka tourism, and this will be by land, sea, or air. As expected, there's a pretty long list of requirements to get into Canada, a country that has been sealed off since the beginning of the pandemic. So if you're going to Canada, what you will need to do is get a negative COVID-19 test result within 72 hours before your trip. And this can't be one of those drive-through rapid antigen tests either. It needs to be either a PCR test or an NAT test. And even with that negative test result, you should also still be prepared to be tested again upon arrival if you are subject to random screening. What you won't need, however, is to quarantine, although you will need a quarantine plan. And this is something that you will have to put into your ArriveCan app. So remember those videos that I did about COVID passports and health passports? Well, Canada has an app of their own called the ArriveCan app. So you'll need to download that app, put in your information, and note that you have a quarantine plan before you get there. And if you don't comply with Canada's rules, there are some hefty consequences, upwards of $1 million. That's right. I'm going to get to those fines in just a minute, but first, let's make sure you can get in. So you've been fully vaccinated for at least 14 days with one of those 4 approved vaccines, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson. You've got your negative PCR test. You've downloaded that ArriveCan app. What next? If you're going to be traveling with kids, then any children ages 12 and up will also need to be fully vaccinated. Children 11 and under can also travel, but they'll need to pass a test at the border and also potentially a second test 8 days later. And these requirements go for all U.S. citizens and green card holders, whether you are driving across the border, flying into the airport, hanging out on a boat, and even for you Nexus Pass holders in the Express line. And as I mentioned, you will need to follow these rules to a T or pay the consequences. And the fines in Canada for lying about your vaccination status are the highest I have seen in the world. If you are caught falsifying any information, you could be subject to up to $750,000 in fines and up to 6 months in prison. And if you are forced to quarantine and you break that quarantine, expect up to $1 million in fines and 3 years in prison. And these fines might sound steep, but there's definitely a cost to putting the entire country at risk. You don't want to be that person who is a tourist, a guest in another country, and putting the locals at risk. So follow the rules, my friends. Coincidentally, Canada was the last place that I traveled to before the lockdown started in March of 2020. I spent 10 days meditating in the beautiful mountains of Merritt, British Columbia, and then I also spent some time snowboarding in Whistler. First day snowboarding in Whistler, and it was super fun, but it was so cold. It was like minus 30 Celsius with the wind chill, but I had a lot of fun, and time for some après-ski. You know, I've talked about this before in my videos and podcasts, but Vancouver is one of my favorite cities in the world. And in all my years of traveling to Canada, I never fathomed that we would be in the situation that we're in right now with global travel. So if you are one of the lucky few people in the world right now who is able to travel to Canada for tourism, cherish this opportunity, and I'm wishing you happy and safe travels. And if you're a Canadian wanting to travel to the US for tourism, then hopefully by August 21st, the borders will be open for you too. What do you think of the entry requirements to get into Canada? Strict or fair? Head over to my community page to vote in the poll and let me know what you think in the comments below. If you're planning your next getaway, you can find an entire playlist of countries open for tourism here and more on travel and living abroad here. What's next? Oh, there we go.